Welcome back, everybody, in studio for another Beyond the Horizon podcast. I am joined today by Mr. David Yardley, the founder of Moongoat Coffee. And oddly enough, I was in there getting a coffee and I'm ordering a banana bread. And they're like, sorry, we're redoing the recipe. We can't serve it right now. And I look over and there's this tall guy right next to me in line, taking with a fork and eating a banana bread. And I'm kind of looking and I'm like, that looks a lot like a banana bread to me. Like, what are you guys talking about? I can't have a banana bread. And then I see a nod and the guy behind the counter goes, hey, El Jefe said it's good. So you want one? You can have one. And then we're standing in line. I'm like, is El Jefe really what he meant? Like, you own the place? Yeah, that's me. Anyway, then here we are on the podcast. So that's welcome, awesome. Man. Is serendipitous.
It is. Me. It is. I could feel the judgmental stares, and I just needed to make things right and make sure somebody got banana bread.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, so Moongoat, if you're local to Costa Mesa, you definitely know Moongoat. Shout out to the greenhouse. I think that spot is so awesome.
Magnum opus for sure.
Yeah. But tell us a little bit about, like, what are you working on right now? What is really driving you in these recent days?
Yeah, absolutely. It's cool because we started Moongoat 8 years ago, 2017, really. It started in my garage. So it was a really cool passion project that's come to full fruition, I feel like. And it was a couple of partners that were there from the very beginning. So it's awesome. You got to shout them out, right? You've got co-founders. You've got to make sure that they had their part in making sure it really became what it is today. I was just the guy who was happy roasting coffee in my garage, and they had the grand vision. So I always tell people I'm not an entrepreneur, I'm a wantrepreneur, right?
Yeah.
I always, admired people who took that jump, but it took having business partners. And that's a great segue too, because partnering up with people can be scary, but it can also give you that push to actually do what it is that you're capable of in the future. To have somebody who believes in something bigger than even you could believe in, right? So that's such a huge thing. So, 2018 started from almost nothing to taking on way too much debt at the beginning, like every small business does, to now, we're relatively debt free, and we have 5 retail shops and then a booming wholesale business. So it's a great thing that's just blossomed bigger than I could have imagined, right? If you had said, where are you going to be in 8 years? I would have shot way lower. So it's a really cool experience just to be along for the ride. And lately I don't do a whole lot. I step back from most of the operations, and you're just there cheering on the team that does the work every day, right?
Yeah.
That's what it's kind of turned into.
That's amazing. So full circle, you were doing all of the work.
Doing everything. Now, I wouldn't say nothing. Nothing is maybe an understatement, but it really is just about supporting the people who are doing the work and making sure that they have the tools, the resources, the vision to actually keep the brand going.
Yeah.
Right.
I think it's very underestimated the amount of time and energy it actually takes to keep the vision part of what's next in the business and where it's going. Right. Do you find like that you were reaching a point where you could work on the business rather than work in the business?
Yeah, that fulcrum point really was about 5 years in. I had to make that conscious decision to actually start working on the business and not just in the business, because, one of my favorite quotes of all time, and I'll butcher it, but Dwight Eisenhower said, things that are important are seldom urgent, and things that are urgent are seldom important. And at some point in the business, for some people, it's sooner than they want. And for some people, they never get to where they want to be on that. You have to start working on the business. You have to dedicate that time. You have to make sure that you're giving that its due. And that's the most important work you can do when it feels like answering emails is your call in life. And it's usually not, right? It's usually not just being the first person to reply to emails. It's thinking bigger and beyond that. And what is it that's going to keep everything in forward motion? Because you really are in microcycles of growing and shrinking all the time. So not that you have to be be thinking about growing huge. But if you want to maintain even, you have to think about what does that look like? Maintenance might be the hardest part of business.
Yeah.
It's kind of easy to shrink. It's easy to grow. It's really hard to even maintain, right?
Yeah.
So, thinking about what lines of business do you want to maintain? What lines of business do you want to grow? What efforts that going to take? And do you have the right team? And is it a willingness gap? Is it a skills gap? Is it, a resources gap to get from A to B in those different like vectors of business, right?
So all these things that you're mentioning, are these all things you lived through, made mistakes, or did you read or have mentors? Or how do you make it through all these layers you just brought
All
up?
of the above.
Okay.
All of the above, right? There's no substitute for the school of hard knocks of just living through it. But formal education is huge. Seeking out that knowledge, things like this, right? Like listening to podcasts is awesome. People are just giving out the recipe for free, right? Yeah. So that's epic. And then, mentors are huge. You have to have people you look up to and that will tell you what you don't want to hear and listen to it, right? Like that's the key formula, I think, for like a great mentor relationship is somebody that's going to speak into your life, tell you the uncomfortable thing, and then you just go, I'm not going to even argue. I'm just going to absorb. I'm going to listen. I'm going to sit with this, and I'm going to move on and try to move past it, right? In a healthy way.
So when you're seeking a mentor, like how important is it to have a mentor in that? Like, did you go look for a coffee mentor?
It's funny. I have people that I regard highly in the industry that, you keep in touch with, but I think a mentor is somebody that you can also add value to, right? Like, I think that when you're trying to find somebody in that sort of world, they're usually so busy. They're usually so slammed. They don't have time to just pal around and talk for an hour. Unless you say, hey, this is what I want to get out of our relationship, and here's what I hope to add to your business or your career path that I can hopefully help with. And I think that that's an important thing to like get that buy-in from someone who maybe just doesn't have time, right? Usually my mentor has 2 kids, is successful. He's a CEO of a Fortune 100 company. And, he shouldn't give me the time of day. But I realized he really enjoys this part of what it is that I do. And I can really help him get a picture into that. And I can even help him, with his son who lives closer to me, be like a mentor to him. Right. So it's that give and take. And then it just becomes a integration into your family. It's like a new family member instead of having, somebody where you're trying to just extract value. You're really trying to think like, what can I do? I would do anything for any of my family members. Right. So it's like the same kind of mindset, right? Like I'm just here to I'll help him move if he wants, right? It's that sort of being willing to do anything, and giving freely so that you get that great value back.
So this mentor specifically, you already knew him. You knew he was like someone who could bring value.
Oh, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, especially when you're growing. I mean, he's been there, done that, right? So he's got lots of tuition in the school of hard knocks, right? He's got lots of lumps, and he's seen, every growth phase in a business. So it's like, I need to like understand, where we're going and like, what are the trap doors that we don't want to go down, right?
Any trapdoors you went down?
Oh, of course. Yeah.
What's your best lesson that you got whooped and learned?
Best lesson. I mean, there's so many, but probably the biggest thing is like, you should just bootstrap it for as long as you possibly can. Money that people want to give you, quote unquote, give you is never, it's always advantageous to them. Right. So it's like taking loans is like drinking sugar, right? It's going to come back and bite you on the other side. You've got to really like be conscious. And I wish, the very beginning we borrowed less money, right? Like that's probably the biggest thing. And just be right size, that's don't get over your skis with finances, right? But you get past it and you learn and you go, okay, don't do that again, right?
How do you think somebody can judge like how much should you borrow at all?
I mean, I think you think about debt as a tool, right? Yeah. Instead of as like a never do it. And I almost think about it, since we're using that tool analogy, just like a tool, right? Like, do you need to have the finest, coolest, Milwaukee kit for, doing DIY around the house? No, you probably need Ryobi, right? So like,
right.
just bring it down a notch, and whatever you think you need to borrow, of course you can ask for that. And if you have no early prepayment, getting into the weeds, sure, take it, right? But it generally isn't that way. It's usually leveraged. It's usually all sorts of crazy things.
Right.
And you need to make the jump. And that's where, like, talking to a financial analyst, somebody who actually does this all day long, is super helpful, because they look at the terms, they have no emotion about it. They just see black and white numbers, and really, like, listening to their advice is probably the best thing you can do. Somebody who has no say in the matter. And that would be the advice I would give past David, and I'm giving future David, right? Like, listen to people who do this all day long, who have that expertise, CPAs, whoever, right? Somebody who can speak into that. Because when you're emotionally driven, and I'm passionate about coffee and I'm passionate about the business, then I'm going to make a foolish decision, right? Love knows no reason. It's just love, right? So, and that can, smack you in the back, right?
Right. But that's the spirit that's necessary of that front person, right? And so you either have people who could tell you the truth, like read that stuff, right? If that's not you and your nature.
Totally.
What's your thought between debt or equity?
Ooh. Yeah, I mean, both are valuable. I think if somebody takes an equity stake and can continue to provide value, that can be awesome, right? I'm not opposed to business partnerships. I think that the only thing I always tell people about business partnerships is it's work. It's not a marriage, right? Some people are like, you marry your business partners. That's not true. Right. You marry hopefully one person your whole life, right? And not your business partners. It's not divorce. It's inevitable. It's going to end. So how's it going to end, right?
Right.
It's going to end in some form or fashion. It's uncomfortable. Like, we don't want to talk about how this podcast is going to end even right now. And that's not that long from now, right? Like, we as humans, when we have a good thing going, just want it to keep going forever, right? But you do need to think about, like, what is the end goal of this, right? And I think if you think backwards from there, that's my only advice. And I'm not the pro on business partnerships, right? Like, we've messed up things, right? As humans all the time. I make mistakes every day. But if you think about that inevitable end and work backwards, it really does help you frame the conversation in the way that it needs to be had. Because equity can be also a great tool, right? But it's like, it's more permanent, right? You've got to think about, like, how's it going to be in 10 years, right? In 10 years, are we going to be okay with this agreement, right? And usually the answer when you're writing it, thinking about how much you're going to grow, is no. And so you go, okay, let's put some levers in there for what's going to happen when the money gets paid back, right?
Right. So throughout this journey, have you taken on any equity other than your original, like, partners? Have you guys done that?
It's just the original partners with Moongoat. Yeah. So we're lucky that we don't have that complexity, but with other businesses I have, so I've done it in the past, and I'll do it again probably. Right. So
what are some of the other businesses you got?
So my family has an engineering company that my dad runs day to day still, but he helped him out with that. That was an awesome journey, kind of right before Moongoat. And then I have my own consulting firm. So, have that for whatever business consulting that people need. And, you bring on specific that's where I've brought on some partners that can really help leverage, marketing people where I have no expertise, and say, hey, if we get this, you get that, right?
Right.
So,
That makes sense.
Yeah.
In balancing these three businesses that you're not in the
No, the family engineering business, thankfully dad's back in the saddle. He's rocking and rolling.
So you got two businesses.
Yeah.
Moongoat's your primary baby, takes most of your time.
Yeah.
How much time would you say you carve out for consulting gigs?
I try not to make it more than 12 hours a week. So
it's a consistent.
No, it's not consistent. It's up and down, right? But even on the max, 12 hours a week, right? So, I had 5 clients all of last year, and got a couple slated for this year. And, sometimes it's people who are just burnt out and just need to like figure out, do they want to keep doing this? And it's been a spectrum. It's been like did a carpentry business last year, videography business last year, and a couple coffee businesses because I know those really well. But it very rarely is like a deep business conversation. And it's more like, how do you balance entrepreneurial like mindset with actually like staying sane?
So you're sort of like their entrepreneurial therapist.
Yeah,
Like, like just take a lay on my Chase Lounge and talk to me. Just tell me what's going on, right?
Exactly. And oftentimes it's just like level setting. What do you want? Like what's actually success looking like for you? Because people don't answer that question a lot of times. Like when are you gonna know you like quote unquote made it, right? And people often never answer that question. And maybe that's part of the entrepreneurial spirit, right? Like, I don't want to answer that question. I just want to keep trying to make it, right?
Do you get that out of them?
Yeah, you try to agree on something, right? Some people have a hard time thinking about like, the end goal, but even a goal a year from now or 5 years from now, what would you be super happy to say you did, right? So that's usually where we start. And you have to start with agreements because you agree on what's like the most important, because sometimes you're giving people advice that they disagree with, but you go, hey, I want you to disagree still. And then commit to the plan, right? Because then you'll see if you actually disagree or agree, right?
Right, because you'll have evidence of whether yes or not.
Yeah, exactly.
So did this come about out of a necessity, sort of like people are asking and you're like, okay, if I'm going to do this, I got to make
I have to make
time on my money. Or
once you get a certain amount of money too, you have to, be tax compliant, right? So, and I actually started that even before Moongoat. So that's funny enough. How I met my Moongoat business partners was that they wanted me to consult on a concept that they had. And I was like, it's not a good concept, right? And then they were like, coming over to my house and seeing what I was doing. They're like, well, what if we did coffee? And I was like, I like coffee. Let's do that.
So tell me more about that. How'd you get into coffee?
Yeah. I mean, on accident. My sisters loved going to this coffee shop. I have 4 sisters, 2 older, and the older sisters, of course, would go to Diedrich Coffee on Fairview and Baker. And I got a job there because they loved going there to get coffee. So I just wanted to do something that made me cool to my older sisters. And then I never really left the coffee industry after that. So that was early 2000s, and did that for a few years, worked at Starbucks for 9 years. That company got bought by Starbucks. So, I got the job at Starbucks. Also, I would say on accident. I didn't never apply at Starbucks.
Would you have, or was there there's like a sacrilegious thing about?
Back then, I don't think it was as sacrilegious, but today, probably not, right? It's a great company in a lot of ways, but I always describe it as a yuppie convenience store. It's like 7-Eleven for people who are above 7-Eleven, right?
It
so
really is. That's the best example.
So it just is what it is, right? And when I think about like marketplace for coffee, and honestly for most businesses, we're competing for people's time and attention, because those are the non-renewable resources we have. And we're really not competing over best product or placement, all those 5 P's of marketing. They're great, but like in reality, you're just trying to, why do you come to Moongoat? It's because it's convenient, it caught your attention, and now you're hooked, right?
And the coffee's not trash, though.
Yeah. The product has to be good. The product has to be good.
It is good.
Yeah, that's your license to operate, is like you have a good product, right?
But for me, I'm usually going there and I'm doing work.
Yep.
And there are 2 very if I'm going to make it a repeat spot, there's 2 things I'm always looking for.
Yeah.
I want to hear I can stand.
Okay. Yep.
So you have that little nook.
Yep.
And I'm willing to get cozy. If there's 2 people there, there's 3 seats, man. I'm coming in. I'm getting
a
spot.
Share.
But you got a spot to standing desk. And it's well lit.
Yep.
Those are 2 things. And a lot of coffee shops are pretty dark and whatever. And I like
Moody.
lighting because I'm doing Zoom meetings a lot. And when it's all dark, you look like you're in a closet or something. So
yeah.
And then
I love it. And all the Moongoats have standing spots. So yeah, it's that's a requirement that like, I'm always careful about me marketing, like doing stuff only for me.
Yeah.
But then some things like that, I'm like glad that resonates with more than just me, right?
Yeah. There's always, I forget who said this, but I think I had a class in college, and that one of the like guest people was just saying like, no matter how odd like your thought is, you're not the only one.
True. I love that.
There's always, now, whether or not there's enough people to make it a profitable thing,
Very different.
on,
Yeah.
it's different, but you're not alone. You
Yeah.
might be an early adopter or whatever.
I like that.
There's always
That's like the optimist version of what I said. So I like it.
yeah, other side. So you get into coffee.
Yep.
We work there, but when did you start going from I work in the coffee industry to I'm gonna
I'm a
start
coffee person.
like are you a coffee scientist? Do you know like
yeah. So technically, I don't do research, and I think that's the definition of a scientist, but I do have a certificate in coffee science. So that was probably the fulcrum point for me. My career was going to UC Davis. I went while I was working at Starbucks as a representative of Starbucks. And they were doing their inaugural coffee science certificate like program. And I went to like the kickoff. It was like a 2-day intensive. And I was like, dude, coffee's way bigger than I thought. Not as a commerce, but just as like a depth of information. So they had, physicists and microbiologists and all these different disciplines at UC Davis speaking about coffee. And it just blew my mind. So that was like the moment. That was 2013, I want to say, somewhere around there. And that's when I like knew coffee was my career over like, even at Starbucks, I'd gotten into supply chain management. I was like, oh yeah, I'm just going to like leapfrog from supply chain management at Starbucks to supply chain management somewhere else. Right. And I wasn't thinking coffee. I was just thinking supply chain
experience.
Yeah.
You know, figures.
Just take it.
Go to Amazon.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
So when you're going through like the science of it, is it more about how to get the right taste and how to get the right flavors and roasts and all that?
I mean, the beautiful thing about coffee, this is like why it like really lights me up, is it's a baby as an industry. Like when you think about other products, chocolate that people are addicted to, tea, all these other things have been around for hundreds or thousands of years longer than coffee.
Wine,
Yeah,
beer,
all of them. All of them were like, we don't really even know who the first person to do it was. Whereas like coffee is like 500 years old, right? So it's this like baby industry, and I just don't even think we've gotten close to what the final product is. I think it'll just be more similar to wine or beer, where you just get like a glass or a bottle of it, and like you just get what you get. And the deciphering is more on like everybody knows what an IPA tastes like versus a lager, or even wine's got this beautiful color coding system called white and red, right? Whereas coffee, it's all brown. So there's dark to light, but that's like
the roast, right?
Yeah, it's the roast, and to me that's like the least important. That's like saying, I guess people do say that about beer, dark and light, but you kind of know when somebody says I like light beer or dark beer, they're not deep into the weeds, right? They're in the baby pool of beer.
So let's take a moment here, clear the air for somebody who's like a newbie to coffee. How do you understand the gamut, and how do you find your taste?
Oh, I've
been to a lot of coffee shops.
Yep.
I've done a lot of working on the road and going places, and sometimes you have one and you're like, it's sour or it's burnt. It's like they lit it on fire, or, like, so walk me through the 101 of how do you learn what is your cup of.
See, this is where I wish it's like, I'm not good at coffee yet. That's the other crazy thing. Like, I know so much, but people who are like truly, the best at something can describe it so simply, and that's like the beauty of what their expertise.
That's
Einstein. So I think so, right? It seems like he would have said that.
Einstein, I think, pretty sure it's Einstein, said that if you can't explain something complex simply, then you don't know enough about it.
Yes.
Something like
that. And so I don't know enough about coffee because I can't tell you perfectly simply what to look for, but there are definitely hallmarks. And I think the thing that I want, my like career's passion, like my life's work, is trying to figure out how to describe this beautiful product It's a cherry. It's literally a tropical fruit that's red or yellow when it's ripe, that's grown halfway across the world, gets here, gets to you, and you go, I know which one I like, right? Like that would be my like ultimate goal, is to get it down to like so simple that anybody who is traveling around can go into whatever coffee shop and just know, right? That would be like, and it's not just me, it's the whole industry needs to kind of be thinking along these lines, because it's infinitely complex. And we take this tropical fruit and there's 30 steps to get it into a cup, and every single one of those can make it better or worse, right? Or just keep it the same. And so it's really like this beautiful game of like trying to not screw it up as you get it from like point A to point B.
Right.
And I just look for, when I'm looking for a coffee shop, the hallmarks that I look for are, do they have a brand that I recognize, a national roasting brand? And I know that that's going to get me to like a baseline. And then I look
Like
to see
Folgers. Or
yeah. But you know,
like
hopefully higher quality than
what's a
Folgers.
national roasting brand we should all look for that we'll be like, okay, cool, this is probably a decent cut.
And this is probably the best thing to kind of like qualify that, right? There's commodity coffee and there's specialty coffee, and there's a hard break between those two, right? So Folgers, U-Ban, Don Francisco's, that's all commodity coffee. And then you've got specialty coffee, which Starbucks touches a little bit, but not much, right? They buy a little, but it's a very small portion. It's usually for the reserve stores. Smaller companies generally do buy more of that as like a general rule. If you're going to flip a coin, or you're going to go to like a coffee bean and tea leaf or just a local mom and pop, I'm always going to try the local mom and pop,
sure.
right? And so that's the beautiful thing, is that because it's a smaller supply, it's like 1% of the world's coffee, you actually have a chance to like taste this more special thing by supporting a smaller local business. So that would be the thing I look for. And then, roast is a huge indicator, right? Because roast on that like 30-step process is like the third to last. And at that point, everything else is locked in, but you can really screw it up with a roast, right? You can really screw it up.
Oh, yeah.
And then a brew, you can really screw it up with a brew, right? Like, so those last two steps magnify or, minimize what the coffee is at its core, like more than all the other steps, but only because they're just like the final steps, right?
Yeah, it's like somebody who sucks at wrapping a gift versus somebody who's really good. Yeah, I mean, actually, no, that's not a good example, because inside it will still be quality.
No, but like, if you could taste past it, right?
Yeah, right.
If you could taste past those defects.
So, I've heard that the lighter the roast, the higher the caffeine content. This is true?
No. So this is what blew my mind in 2013, is that coffee is 0.1% caffeine by volume. So that's like nothing, right?
Right.
It's like very, very little. It's enough to really open your eyes. But there's so much other stuff in coffee. There, like the reason you have increased bowel movements, nothing to do with caffeine, right? The reason that you actually feel alert at first, like if you smell coffee, you get more alert. That's not caffeine, right? There's all these other things that are in there. When you roast, dark to light, the cup you're going to finish is the one that's going to wake you up the most, right? It's the one that's going to deliver the most caffeine, because caffeine's pretty stable. It doesn't really burn off. So you could roast it pretty darn dark. And the only reason that like you could say that light roast has more caffeine is because it doesn't expand as much. So by volume, yes, light roast has more caffeine than dark roast. But that's like if you're just scooping it, you'll get like a little bit more caffeine.
I see. If you weighed it,
then
it'd be the same.
Yeah.
See. So in this coffee making process, you have 30 steps.
Yeah.
There's roughly 3 that happen in the coffee
in the U.S. basically. Yeah.
Okay. So you're picking it. You're doing all these things. I don't know which of the 27 steps are important or interesting.
Yeah.
But
most of them very uninteresting, right?
But where I see the most differentiation, is you got roast, but most of like us are not doing the roasting.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But then it's that next step, right? Are you
Sure.
pouring it over?
Right.
Are you brewing it through a machine?
Yep.
Are you French pressing it?
Yep.
Is it an espresso?
Yep.
There's this whole range of stuff, and you have all these different places
Totally.
claim their claim to fame around that, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. That's like the differentiation. But this is where I'd say it's just a moment in history, because if you look 100 years ago, everybody was roasting their coffee at home.
Right.
So we're slowly moving that 30-step process closer to 0 steps that anybody has control over, right? Roasting has even gone a little bit more conglomerate in my career, and I think it's going to even get more so, right? Like if I had a crystal ball and I said, like, what are our kids and our grandkids going to enjoy as coffee? Like, I don't think roasting happens in the US. I think roasting happens at the farm level at some point, right? Because it's like wrapping a present in that way. There is the best way to wrap a present, or there are a few really good ways, and the rest are pretty bad. And some people are convinced they love that like rough wrap job,
Right.
but they don't.
Right.
You know, they know deep down there are better ways to do it.
Yeah.
So I think as an industry, we'll get to that point where we decide what properly roasted coffee is pretty uniformly, and that's when it moves. Other market pressures at bay, there's a lot of complexity with like international trade that we don't need to like dive into, because it doesn't, we won't notice that stuff. That stuff happens just by happenstance, right? And then I think it's brewing, right? We'll figure out there is a best way to brew this thing, right? And then it's keeping it shelf stable and like not being this precious, like you have to pour it over and you have to like massage the coffee before you go. Coffee is a princess plant, right? It needs like that gentle care. But there are, technology applied to it. I think the generations to come would just be able to like pick coffee based off of the variety it is, just like wine. People order wine like Chardonnay, Malbec, all those different things, and they order red or white, and then they enjoy it, right? Or they decide they don't like it. So I think that's the future of coffee, is that there will still be coffee shops, right? Like I'm not saying this is the end of coffee shops, because people want a place to hang out, right? But the differentiation will be more like a wine bar. Like, oh, what do you want to drink today? And doctoring it up, like cocktails, right? Like, so I think it'll be an amalgamation of the other addictive beverages that exist, right? You'll have cocktail type things, which are like lattes and whatnot.
Right.
And you'll have the real thing, the serious people drink, their thing straight up. That will still exist. And there will still be weirdos, probably like me and you, still pouring over our coffee at home, just like there are people who brew beer at home. Right. So, like that won't go away entirely. It's just that will be like the weirdos and not the norm.
Right. Like the hobbyists are out, where it's like the process, the experience of it.
Absolutely.
So, okay, last like nerd out question on this stuff.
Yeah.
But
I love it. I'm a nerd at heart.
Okay, so then you go and you grind the coffee, right? And I have found that at first I was like, I'm going to grind the beans myself. And then you like over grind it, and then you under grind it, and then and it tastes like water, and then it tastes it's like mud, and then so you go through this whole process. But that part won't happen overseas, because once you grind it, right, this is where the freshness starts to lose and stuff.
Yeah. That's where, though, I mean, technology has come so far that like I just don't think that these are problems that are unsolvable, right? Like, yes, you're right. But I think like grinding won't happen for a while, right? Like roasting will be the first thing to go, and then grinding and brewing have to kind of happen together. But I think at some point those also go overseas.
So then you just reheat it if you want hot coffee, but it's already liquid. So what's the best way to reheat it? I'm so because it's gonna get.
We'll have to find out. We'll have to find out.
So coffee is this like young thing. 500 years doesn't seem that young, but I guess when you put it into perspective, like these other multi-thousand years.
I mean, think about this: when cacao was discovered just a little bit before coffee, as like something that would be like, wake you up sort of thing. People were drinking it like they drink coffee today, 100 years ago. And now you say chocolate, and nobody thinks about it as anything other than a chocolate bar or chocolate sauce, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I mean by final product. I'm not saying that coffee becomes a sauce or a bar. I'm just saying, like, at some point somebody figured out this is just the best way to enjoy this thing, right? Like, any other way kind of sucks. There's still milk chocolate. There's still dark chocolate.
Yeah.
There's all sorts of like different versions of it. I just see that as like the forefather of another tropical plant that came from the same area of the world that has its own same like, path into our cupboards.
It's crazy.
What's going on, everyone? Today's episode was brought to you by Policy Engineer Insurance Solutions, a company that my brother and I own and are passionate about helping people with what we call the stable table planning, health, wealth, and legacy planning to give you a stable, predictable retirement. If you want to know more about how we do what we do and what areas we can serve you in, visit policyengineer.com.
Yeah, it's like I was thinking to myself when I was like, we're gonna talk. What's the competition like? There's a coffee shop all over. I mean, like, when I'm like looking for a coffee shop, I usually am like, Yelp, open now. Yeah, I mean, like, those are two things. Look, and it's like here, everywhere. Yeah. There's so many. What makes someone last? How many years now? 8 years.
Yeah.
And longer. I mean,
Drew
got bought out.
Yeah.
They were around a long time before that. What's the difference between that and these shops that they pop up and they're gone? And
oh man, is
that a business problem or is it a product problem?
Probably both, right? I always say when you're doing good work, good things compound, and when you're doing bad work also compounds, right? So it's probably both. I don't think real estate's as important in coffee. 4 out of 5 adults drink coffee at least once a week. So it's a pretty commonplace thing. People are busy. They want to drink coffee outside of the house. Most people do drink it at home. So your customer base is like massive. It's almost unlimited. And at that point, it's like, yeah, you've got a flaw in your business or your product is that bad that people would rather not buy it. So yeah, one of those two things is usually what it is. Also, it's, how do you stand out, right? That attention piece, how do you differentiate yourself from the other 7 that are in a 1 mile radius
or less?
Yeah, or less. Yeah. So
oh, go ahead.
No.
Do you take the lead on that? The differentiation, the look, the vibe, the feel, all that? Is that your...
Yeah. That I think was, in large part, something that I had a clear vision for what would make the difference. And I think I knew that people wanted something better than Starbucks. But the key thing there is people also want to feel like this is a special part of their day. So you have to make it like a lot of people have great product, then think like people are lucky to have this product. And you're like, no, you have to respect people's time and their ability to buy your product. You'd be grateful for every penny that people give you. And so that gratitude, I think, is like the baseline, the foundation of our hospitality. And then when you have that hospitality, it hopefully translates into people wanting to come back, right? You don't feel like you're taking their business for granted. So
the people who are giving the hospitality, do you feel like when you're bringing somebody onto the team, and at this point, are you hands-on in that process?
No, but for a long time, I did 100%. Every single one. Yeah.
So are you looking for the right person who has that already? Or can you teach it?
There's some of it that you can teach. I think the key thing that I look for with hiring any role, doesn't even matter if it's frontline employee, if it's, somebody who's going to be in sales or marketing, I look for somebody who is passionate about something, anything, right? Because I think if you're passionate, if you have that desire and you have some discipline around your desires, then you can be taught the love for what it is that you're doing. Because generally people who have a desire, discipline around it, and it really is those two things, not that they're passionate right now, but they've been passionate for a long time and they've taken these active steps to pursue that. Those sort of people generally are ones that aren't going to do bad work, right? So they're, you just tell them hospitality is a key, like core fundamental. And then they're like, well, now I must be good at this, right?
Right.
So yes, of course, like if I could find 100, effervescious, like beautiful people all the time, that would be the ideal. But sometimes you do have to teach a little bit of like those fundamentals around that. Because you also have a lot of tasks that need to get done, and some task-oriented people are just not going to be bubbly and warm,
Right.
So you just have to have a balance in your team, I think.
Right. And the non-bubbly warm people, but good task workers, those are the ones behind, like one layer behind the front of the line.
Right, exactly.
So how about when you find somebody that's not the fit?
Man, it's always tough, but I firmly believe that it doesn't really do anybody any favors to have them in a bad fit, right? It's a disservice to them to say, hey, you're doing great, right? Like false praise is just something that I think happens a lot in a lot of industries and for a lot of people, and it is really disingenuous, right? To tell somebody, hey, you're doing good, and they're not, right? So, generally people land where they're supposed to when you say, hey, this isn't a great fit, right? They'll find something better than what they got hired to do and wasn't a good fit for them. So
do you ever question, like, when you see that person, like, how'd they make it in? Like, how did I let this get through or past me, or when you were doing the hiring?
Yeah, of course, Yeah, absolutely. I mean, countless times, right? You go, man, how did we have such a mismatch? But, that's where you just accept that, like, you make mistakes, and sometimes people have a different expectation of what the job's going to be. They think that it's a good fit, and it's not, right? So
you just ask people, what are you passionate about? And then they just tell you? Or how do you kind of dig it out of someone when you're interviewing?
Yeah, what are your...
Stalk them, go look at all their social media.
For legal reasons, I've never done that. But, of course, you take any publicly available information about people, of course, right? But, you can tell when somebody's passionate, right? And so you can ask, I have like a half dozen questions you ask to get there. You do the pleasantries first, and then you kind of like probe along a line of reasoning. What is it like? One of my favorite questions is, if money was no object, what would you do? I even try to answer that question for myself a lot, because then you go, I should probably do more of that, right? Like, if money was no object, what would I do? I would probably call friends and like play catch with them more often, or, like something random. And you're like, but I can do that when I have a career too, right? So following like what gives you that, like, that deep down joy is so important, and something that gets lost as you start working. You really do need to find that like little bit of you that gives you that ability to get through the tough stuff, because that's the other pieces in a business. I always say you get to like decide to have the business. You don't get to decide when it takes a crap. You don't get to decide when things are going right. Almost everything's out of your control. So you focus on like what you can control that brings you true like fulfillment, and that's going to pay dividends into the business too. You're just not going to take the stress for what it is. You're going to take it for what it could be, and you'll be able to look past the like moment and say like, yeah, this is just a moment. Like, this is a season.
Right. The season part, I've been through some seasons, have definitely had those moments where you're looking back and you're like, wow, the season's longer than I thought, and what are we doing here? But with the whole like art of asking questions, I was having a conversation with one of my old teachers, and she was a OCC, and her kind of like specialty or thing she would do is make students go out and ask questions to strangers to like get to know them.
So good,
like that.
I love that.
And in this conversation, we got to a point where we were talking, and she's saying a lot of the younger generation, they don't have like their heads down, like they're not looking
Sure.
for people, they're not interested in pulling and intriguing. Have you noticed that at all in when you're hiring? Because
Yeah.
in a retail,
I mean, the way we met
yeah,
is I just asked you a question.
Yeah.
Right. I didn't know you.
no, not at all.
You know,
100%.
you're just a random person, right? So I think that it is getting past that initial fear, and I think breaking things down into their elements of like, if you have a curiosity, like let that unwind, right? As like, you know, saw you're ordering a bunch of stuff, right? So I'm like, good customer, right? He won't mind if I introduce myself to him or, you know, just say like, hello. I don't even remember what my opener was, right? You break it down into those elements. Like, I'm just going to say something. I'm just going to like, we made eye contact. I'm not going to be like awkward and be like, look away. I'm just going to, you know, just go for it. And I can't remember what it is that I said, but you just make that decision very quickly. Like, oh, I'm just going to say something, right? I'm going to get past that social anxiety or that like awkwardness.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful what like a smile and like saying something nice about somebody will do to disarm them so that they don't think you're trying to get something or sell them something.
Right.
And, I think that curiosity to me is like the thing that you need to nurture, right? In order for me personally to get into that place where I'm genuinely curious, right? Like there's so many things about Matt that like are cool and interesting. He's like, he's wearing selvage denim. He's got barefoot shoes, right? Like these are all things you notice and you're like, these are things that I like want to know about you, right? And then you go, why not just ask about one of those things, right?
Yeah, just being observant and then asking about it, right?
Yeah, just being curious, right?
Yeah. So how curious are you about what people think about your product, about your service? Like you've
that's
made
a good
it,
question.
you know, like does that matter to you? Do you get feedback? Are you?
Yeah, you have to solicit feedback, but the people who say it without you soliciting it are usually the people you need to ignore. And the people that wouldn't say something only if it was egregious or whatever, you need them to say it before it becomes a pain point for them, right?
That's such a good like observation.
Yeah.
The people who freely give their opinions usually are the ones that doesn't matter.
Usually trash opinions. And then the people who would likely just stop spending their money there, those are the people. So one like thing that I highly recommend for any business is look at your top customers, maybe tranches of customers, you know, styles of customers, and solicit feedback from them and give them something, right? So like we give out gift cards and say like, hey, would you fill out a survey for some of our top customers? And like, that's just such a great way to get real honest feedback. And then what's in it for them? You get some money to this place you're already spending a ton of your money at, right? Like, so it's a net positive and it's a great retention tool, right? Because these people, you know, want to keep supporting, but you're giving them one more reason to.
Mm-hmm. So you're using terms that we use as well, like retention and stuff like that. But the difference is, you know, when we're bringing on a client, there's some like attached reoccurring costs. They're buying insurance, they're paying, they're a client. There's a fee on assets under management.
Your contract is written, my contract is social.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's
so it's just an interesting dynamic though to look at how you retain the customer.
Yeah. So mine has to be a little bit more woo-woo and less black and white.
I mean, you got to keep getting them wanting to come back, whereas like we have to not mess up, right?
Yeah.
They're there and they're working.
You're thinking about stewardship and I'm thinking about like staying relevant.
You're constantly dating.
Yeah. Yep.
Right. Which we want to strive to always keep dating and having people feel that, but like you have to continue to make someone.
I have to keep that spark alive
until a certain point, maybe, and then there's a point where it's like a matured customer. They're not going anywhere.
Yeah. Absolutely. And you know, for both of us, the bandwidth is finite, right? You can't have everybody, right? No. You can't date everybody, so you just realize like that's where I think right sizing and determining like where is your maximum ability to provide the value and to meet your mission, and be happy if you're making progress towards that, knowing that like, yeah, you'll never hit your ceiling,
right?
But like don't kick yourself if you're not doubling every year, right? Because it may be some years you can double, but some years you probably can't, right?
Oh, for sure not.
Yeah.
Sometimes if you double the next year, you might actually like kind of reach cruising altitude a little bit.
Hey, you might even dip a bit, right? Just to like keep everything stable.
So you talk about the mission. You have a mission statement?
Yeah. Making coffee better, easier daily. So just super simple, super actionable, something that at every level of the business, they can own it. And so I always say substitute the word coffee for whatever your job is if it's not coffee, right? If you're accounting, make accounting better, easier daily. So look at systems. Like some of the hallmarks of this is less Moongoat and more my manager style is like you never antagonize the symptom of any problem. You always antagonize the system. Like we're always on the same side of the table looking at whatever gets screwed up, whatever gets messed up and saying what let it get to there. Not like you, Matt, you screwed up, right? Like it's not that because I think most people, 95% of people at work want to do a good job. They have a desire to do a good job. The other 5%, they need to go find a different line of work, right? But
just enough.
Yeah, they want to do just enough. Or some people actually occasionally get, hurt, offended, and they want to do a bad job, right? They want to do harm. And that's generally, again, a systematic thing, right? Like they got messed up by a system, right?
Yeah.
Whether it was my system or somebody else's, they still look at that as, they point the finger. So to me, it's like trying to take it as that extreme ownership of like when people do a good job, it's their fault. And when people do a bad job, it's my fault because I probably picked the system, right? And then it's not like I'm sitting at home like, saying, oh, I did such a bad job. It's no, like we just need to figure out how to do a better job. So that's where the word better is so important to me. And then easier, right? Like there's so much we can leverage to make work easy. I tell almost everybody who's in a job that isn't based on just being there for hours, right? Like not hourly, somebody who's salary. If you figure out how to do your job in less hours, I'm not going to be mad. I'm going to give you a high five and ask you for some tips, right?
Okay. You just need this done.
Yeah.
If you could do it in half the time.
I don't care.
Right. Yeah.
Just give me your tips. Tell me how you did it.
Right.
What tools did you use? What systems did you implement? And then, just focus on what you can do today because, we're not promised tomorrow, right? It may never come. So focus on what you can do today and every day keep chipping away, right? That's it.
As somebody who's a systems person, how do you manage like auditing your system and whether it needs to evolve or change or improve?
Totally.
Without something going wrong having to be the reason to then audit or look at what
something going wrong is your
obvious.
biggest flag, right? But funny enough, one of my consulting clients, I say they're following the idiot's guide to maintaining employment with their middle management. They're baffling with BS, right? There's systems for everything. So as we were like doing our intake, I was like on a whiteboard writing down every piece of software they were saying. And then I went back down the list and I was like, rank them out of 10, and then everything was getting like a 6 or 7. Then I was like, okay, great. So they're all 6 or 7 out of 10, right? So they're all doing their job. Like, well, no, this one's broken. And this one fights with this one. And it's like, that doesn't sound like a 6 or a 7 out of 10. It's like, which ones are like actively like maybe going against what you guys are wanting to do for work? And let's try to cross those out. Let's try to get rid of those software stacks, right? Let's clean up the software stack. Let's consolidate. So we went from like 15 pieces of software in the business, which was, can be light for some businesses. For this business, they needed like 3, right? It's not sophisticated. It's very simple. Right. And I think all business, to that Einstein quote, right? Like break it down to that simplest thing that you can do and keep it there because you know what software companies want to do? They want to sell you on their software. So they're going to tell you all the
Right.
virtues, right?
Yeah.
And so I think every once in a while doing like an annual audit of like, maybe borrow from like that beautiful, like weigh all your goods, weigh all your bads, and like, try to cross out some bads and add some goods, and just auditing it like that, just gut reaction. Like, does this actually like help us do our job, or is it actively working against us doing our job? Right.
Yeah. And so once a year.
I think once a year is sufficient, right? I should probably take my own advice there.
Well, it's so much easier to dish out advice than to take it, right?
So much easier.
So being someone who's consulting other people, do you find that teaching others helps you also reflect?
Yeah, probably more.
More?
Yeah. I probably get more out of that than if any of the clients are listening, that's not true. You guys get so much value. But I get a ton, right? Because I take my own advice, right? Like you dish out advice and you're like, wait a second, I need to look in the mirror.
Yeah. Or you begin to prepare as to what you're going to say and you're like, this is really good advice, but if I believe it, I got to do it. Right?
Exactly. Right.
Yeah. And that discipline, it's way easier said than done.
Oh, so much. Yeah. Like this year I tried to start journaling, right? I've never been an active journaler. And I'm like, man, I'm stink at forming a new habit already, right? Like, because just one more thing on top of, right? And so I think that's the thing with systems is you really do have to see what is your ability to actually execute and keep it within your abilities, right? Like, I don't actually probably need to journal, maybe I do, but something else has probably got to give, and it shouldn't be brushing my teeth, and it shouldn't be like the non-negotiables, right?
What made you want to journal?
Just seemed like a good idea, right? I didn't have like this deep desire to, right?
Now, in journaling, I think of two different styles of journaling. One being like sort of like logging, journaling, and kind of like reflection on what just happened or like throughout the day versus like thought dumping, journaling, prayer type style of it. What are you thinking when you're talking about this?
And for me, what I still do, the brain dumping, praying, meditating, like that. That's a non-negotiable. For me, it was like
in text though. Like
no, not oftentimes. It's just like with your thoughts, right? But and sometimes with the Apple Notes app, right? But this is like I wanted to do like gratitude journaling. But I am a grateful person. I just sometimes don't say it enough. So I was thinking like if I put pen to paper and then I do that, I will express gratitude more like vocally or even write somebody a thank you note every once in a while, right? Because I wrote it down and now I've got to do it. So the cool thing is like I have gotten better about saying thank you and like expressing gratitude just by like having this spur of like I should journal. But then I'm like, what was the outcome I wanted from journaling? Why did I just do that? So.
Well, what's his name? Jesse Itzler.
Oh, yeah.
So he talks a lot about, he does, I don't know if it's every month but like through the year, every year, he's got a certain number of like thank you letters or cards that he like writes to people.
What a beautiful habit.
And I don't know how long he's been doing it, but it's definitely something that I think would probably pay.
How often do you get a handwritten note, right?
I mean, hardly ever.
Ever, right? So
yeah.
Well, yeah, he is such a great like fountain of wisdom too, just in like calendaring. I mean, he can be a little abrasive to people, right? They see his large S, his loudness, and they like miss the forest for the trees, but he's got some nuggets.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. I saw him speak at the 10X conference a few years back, which was awesome. And I love the story he tells about, I think it's Brad Pitt and Zico coconut water.
Oh yeah.
Where he calls them and he's like, I need you to go and like do this. And it wasn't pre-scripted. And he just picked up on it and like went, or maybe it was Matt Damon.
Yeah. And like walked past the
coconut tree and he goes up there and he starts whacking it. And it's this whole thing. And he goes, see how hard it is to get coconut water? We need to, and then they invest or whatever. Butchering the story, but
yeah, what a great story. And he did a similar one. I think he called A-Rod and had him walk past with like a drink that he was trying to get somebody else to invest in past the boardroom. And it was like, he's the king of just like those. I mean, he's a master like at selling, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think one of the things before he had come up, he was trying to figure out how to. He found like a muffin shop or a coffee shop or something where people always went that mingled in this one area, and he went and he bought like
all the muffins,
all of them, right? And then he's like, "Well, I got all the muffins. There's a lot of
come talk to me,
and they give them away or whatever." Yeah, it's genius and shameless, like willing to just do it. Like on that note, how important is it, you think, to just be shamelessly committed to like going out there and spreading the word what you're doing?
I think that kind of also goes to that, like, don't listen to the feedback of the loudest people, right? Because everybody's going to like tell you, I remember my wife's grandma, right before she died, the last thing she asked me was like, do you think you can still get a job if this fails? Right. And it's like, this person cares deeply, right?
Yeah.
Maybe too deeply. So I think you do have to trust your intuitions and your gut and like not listen to the people who are naysayers when you're going through it. Some people are trying to pour wisdom into you. Some people are just impressing their anxieties, their hangups about what you're doing onto you. Mm-hmm. And I think that applies both like when you're making career decisions and also like, when you're running the business. Like if it's not somebody who you really care what they think about your business, you don't need to be disrespectful, right? Like I wasn't mean to grandma, mama. I said, I think I could get a job if I needed to, right? Like you agree with them and then you go, but I'm going to keep doing it, right? I'm going to send it, right? So I think like that fearlessness and I think that that's just a skill it's a muscle you exercise, right? You have to do things that scare you. Mm-hmm. You just have to continually do stuff that the face of it looks, you don't have to be Alex Honnold, climbing a tower and
that was crazy.
That made my palms sweat.
But you know what's even more nuts is I saw this picture. He climbed El Capitan.
Yeah. Free soloed.
Yes. But the Taipei 101 is like half
the height.
Yeah. When they put a picture and I'm like, oh my God.
Because we can't conceptualize the face of a rock. We can conceptualize a tower, right?
Yeah, 100-story building.
Yeah, it's crazy.
They're like, 100-story building. It's crazy. So that means that he climbed a 200-story rock, basically, or 180-story rock.
Yeah, that didn't have architectural features to climb on.
Right, like that building was pretty repetitive.
Yeah.
Outside of the weird little circles he decided.
The very top where he's standing on the ball is where, like, you're like, oh my goodness, this guy's fearless.
The absolute.
It pulls out his phone.
That's what I was gonna say. The selfie. I was like, dude, stop, man. You're there. There's no way. There's
my palms are sweating talking about it.
I know, it was crazy. But then a week later, I see on Instagram this photo, and I'm like, oh my God, it was not even. It was just barely half or something like that. Yeah. And so I went back and watched Free Solo, right? And I was like, oh my gosh, it's like put it into this whole new perspective.
Yep.
And I mean, I'm not a climber. I could climb a tree with like kids like that high. I'm like, okay,
this is enough. But yeah, I think things that scare you don't have to be El Cap.
No, right.
But yeah, you just got to do stuff that's uncomfortable, stresses you out, scares you. Because I think when you choose to do that, this is like one of my deep beliefs that I kind of discovered this year, so it's loosely held because it's discovered recently, is that if you choose to do things that stress you out, that scare you, when scary things happen to you, when stressful moments happen, you've already chosen to be stressed out. It pales in comparison, right? You have this like something that is the worst thing that could happen. You're like, well, I already did this and I actually did it. Right. So, it's not insurmountable. Right?
100%. And I have a deep belief that now is working on 8 years in.
There you go.
But I think you can microdose this type of thing.
Totally.
And
that's
so
survivable.
Yeah. So I started taking cold showers in 2018.
It's a perfect example. I love it.
And it started out as like a I'm going to do this as a challenge to myself. And when this happens in my business or whatever, then like I'm going to warm shower and I'm going to do that. And then eventually I'll get to a place where I'll just shower normal again. Right. And it was kind of this weird psychological thing I was playing with myself. And then I recognized two things. One was that I physically felt like it was the best wake up of any like
coffee,
anything like
yeah.
There's nothing better.
Tea, it doesn't matter. Energy drinks.
the 1 minute after you get out of a cold shower, you're just like
you're alive,
100%. So I noticed that, and then I noticed that I didn't want to do it
ever.
I mean, even still to this day, I'm like, cold water, and I've done it like, I don't know, couple thousand times or whatever. And, but I noticed that by making that conscious choice to say, I don't have to do this and I really don't feel like doing this, but I'm going to do it because I said I'm going to do it. And then doing it is this little microdose of like, before anything possibly could have challenged me today, I challenged myself. So bring it on. Let's go.
I love it.
And
this is like the perfect example of what I'm trying to say. Yeah, it's like you described it perfectly. And it's different for everybody. Because somebody actually might enjoy cold showers. So
and I mean, I've come to enjoy them, but that initial moment.
But that's discipline, right? You built a discipline. So now it's like the kind of person who says they'll do it tomorrow never comes for, right?
Right.
You're the kind of person who said, I'm going to do it today, and you did it today.
Right. Now I'm just trying to take that discipline and add it in other areas, because there's still other areas of my life where I'm like, that can wait till tomorrow or whatever, right? But it's proof and it's been long enough. And now sometimes I'm like, I don't know if I can ever go back, because now I've got all this committed time, you know what I mean? Not that I've never taken a warm shower.
Yeah, because now you've got a room full of mats that you're letting down. You got 2,000 mats that you let down to not do it.
Exactly. Well, the whole business thing is just like a game, right? It's and some of us, it's not a game that we want to play, and others, it's like a game that you can't stop playing.
For sure.
Like Risk. Have you ever played Risk?
Oh yeah.
You get into it. And you're like, we'll go till.
Well, I don't buy lottery tickets and I don't gamble, but I do at work, right? Like I get that same excitement of just like a calculated risk, right? Like I think I've thought through all this. I'm just going to send it, right?
So you talked about in the beginning, though, like you got into coffee. It was kind of like other people pushing you, right?
Yeah.
And your partners and that type of stuff. But now you're running a business with, how many employees do you have?
Moongoat's got 123, I think. Who's count?
It's a pretty good.
Yeah, it's a decent number.
So now do you look at it and it's no longer just like people and partners and kind of like pushing you, but you are like, we got this steamboat, and I'm like,
yep. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Now it's a very different, like your risks have to get smaller, right? Because you have to, and this is why things can't 10x forever, right? We've 10x'd a couple of times, and then, you go, okay, the next 10x is a big jump, right? This is like going from river pathways into the open ocean, right?
Yeah.
If you're going to do it. And you just have to be very like cognizant of like, what does this look like for everybody involved, right? And sometimes you have to take bigger risks, right? Because of that. And I feel strongly like, to me, when you have equity in a business, the way I look at it is like, you're the person responsible for the provenance of these careers too. Now it's like chief, instead of like, you're not the like owner, quote unquote. You don't own anything. You own responsibility, right? You own responsibility. You own the vision. You own the direction, and you're a debtor to everybody's work and all your customers, right? So that's the way maybe I think about debt now, is like the debt that's most important to manage is like, what is it that you owe as a burden of like your future success to your employees and your customers? And doesn't scare me. You know, like I think that like some people that are like, well, if I thought like that, I would go into, you know, bury my head and never do it again. To me, it's like, no, that's what gets me out of bed. You know what I mean? That's why like I'm the kind of person, I haven't always been this kind of person that when I wake up, I'm out of the bed and I'm doing something immediately. It's kind of not your cold shower. It's not as clean and elegant, but it's like, I'm going to the gym, right? I'm doing something. I'm going for a run. I'm going to do something immediately right when I wake up. And something that's a little bit challenging, a little bit stressful, because then I'm mentally prepped for the day. I'm awake, I'm alert. When I show up to the office, I'm not like rubbing my eyes. I'm not like, okay, what's going on? I'm like, no, I've been up. I'm ready to go.
You said you weren't always that way.
I wasn't.
So why did it shift? How?
It probably shifted more gradually than I'd like to admit. You know, it took a while, but you know what? Having kids is what did it for me. Just really wanting to be the kind of person that your kids could be proud of, right? Instead of wanting to be, you know, you just like think about like, also the other thing I thought about is like, how do I want to like, you know, this is kind of morbid, but how do I want to die? Do I want to be like, you know, fat and, you know, not able to move, or do I want to like actually be able to keep up with kids, right? And you just say like, okay, well, what advice would I give somebody? You gotta start moving, right? You gotta start doing stuff.
Yeah, kids is a huge catalyst.
Huge. The best.
100%. It's the best, and it's the best because they're the best, and there's such a this reciprocal reward.
And how curious are they?
Oh, dude,
so curious,
so curious, and it gives you this like this light into something that you can try to keep.
Yeah,
like I want to keep that curiosity.
Oh yeah,
I don't know if I think we think that way, but not every parent, you know, thinks that way.
Sadly,
I think a lot of people.
Too many parents I talk to have like kids were not the best thing that happened to them, right? And to me, it's like kids are the best thing that like I didn't even realize. I knew I wanted to have kids. I didn't realize like how amazing it was going to be.
Yeah,
you know.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I had this conversation with somebody who were like 27 or 28 the other day, and they were talking about how I'm still really young and I want to, so I still, like, they didn't want work to become everything, right? And they were talking about wanting to preserve like balance between like travel and do these things and all this stuff, right? And I just looked at them and I said, that's all good if you want to do that. I just want to have a question for you. Do you want to have kids? Is that in your life part of what you're looking at in the relatively near future, assuming you get a wife and all these things? Like, yeah, 100% I want kids. I said, well, I just want to tell you this. If you are going into this truly wanting kids, you want to be a dad, lay it all on the field now.
Yeah.
And all of the like selfish experiences you want to have for yourself, I promise you, if you're at a place later where you're trying to figure out how to juggle time between giving it to your son or daughter and doing things with them or providing for them, or looking back and saying, oh, I didn't work too much. I, you know, hung out on the beach a lot and I hung out with my friends and I went to bars and I traveled. That will pale in comparison to if you get your business running to where you don't have to be like a slave to it. Yeah. And you have time. Yeah. That's the wealth you're going to want.
Yep.
But you don't know that right now because you don't have kids. You don't know how amazing and how like what that is because you can't know until you have them.
Yeah.
Fully.
No, you can't. You can't. And I feel like having a business is like having a puppy, right? Better than I've used the heuristic of like saying it's like having kids, but it's not, right? It's like having a puppy. You got to take care of it a lot at first. And it's over a different time scale. It's not like 8 weeks and it's crate trained. It's like 8 years and it's crate trained. You know, then you got to take it for walks every day, and right, and you got to buy it food, and you got to buy it, you know, whatever, toys and
a vet bill here.
Yeah, exactly. You know, you're signing up for something that's like a long-term commitment, and there's nothing that compares to having a child because you want, like, instead of being like, oh, I don't want to like pay the vet bill, you're like, I want to do whatever is going to be best for this kid, right? Like, and you don't miss going to bars, or at least for me, like I don't miss like social life. Like now I'm like stoked to go hang out with a group of dads and like watch the Super Bowl with the kids, right? Like it's not like, oh man, I wish I could like relive my spirit years and get blasted. It's like, no, you don't even crave that. You just like
Right.
you just love seeing their joy, their like energy, and you're like, I just want a bottle of whatever they're drinking, right?
Yeah, no, completely. And I think I'm so glad we're talking about it. I think that I don't know what it is that there's a disconnect, but sometimes I think that there's a repeat of the past. Like someone,
Yeah.
someone,
History's cyclical, right?
yeah, like someone didn't receive them
Yeah.
being the greatest thing ever.
Yeah.
So then they kind of like whatever grow into being
Yeah, they
the
didn't
same.
map that part of what it needs to be, not
Yeah.
deeply, right?
Or like there's that saying that there's the two brothers and they had a dad that was an alcoholic. One became one didn't. You ask both of them why they did. They said because of my dad.
Yep.
Right? And it's like they saw something and they said, I'm going to be the opposite or I'm destined to be that because of that. And so sometimes any of you either have crappy parent relationships, like you could change that and you could like, they're the best thing ever.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not easy to make those changes, right? Because, you know, it's really comforting, you know, in the simple thing is scratching an itch, right? But that doesn't do anything to heal the itch, right? You are just gratifying the current things. That's, I think, like that choosing stress, the choosing the cold showers. You're doing the opposite of scratching an itch. You're doing the thing that's actually going to fix the itch, right? And so like figuring out what it is that's your itch and how do you fix it instead of scratch it, choosing productive stress instead of unproductive stress, choosing to do things that like spike your like happiness that aren't, you know, substances, aren't, you know, doom scrolling on Instagram or TikTok, right? Like, how do you find that same spark without those things is so crucial in this generation because now, you know, you could just go to your favorite chat bot, ChatGPT, and it's going to be a sounding board and tell you exactly what you want to hear. And then you're going to go on Instagram and see exactly what you should be. And then you go back to your ChatGPT and it's going to tell you exactly what you want to hear, right? You know, whatever Grok, ChatGPT, Claude, and it doesn't matter. They're all going to do what they're intended to do, which is keep you on the product for longer and give you more of what you want.
Dopamine.
Yeah, that dopamine, that sweet, sweet dopamine. But instead, you could spike your cortisol intentionally, taking a cold shower. And then when you get that relief, you get the same dopamine hit, except for it's so much more holistic. It's something that's actually going to make you a better person instead of put you further down that, like confirming your biases, making you scratch that itch a little bit more.
Right. Yeah, I love it. The way you just so eloquently put that all together.
Yeah, I mean, it's a problem of our generation, right?
No, 100% it is.
It is, and that there's so much good in it. There's so much great content. There's so much great outlets. You just have to choose. You just have to choose the good instead of the bad, right?
Yeah. No, 100%. I think that when it comes to like the algorithm and stuff, it's like the algorithms are showing you what you've engaged and interacted with. It's not accidental. We all know it's like extremely intentional.
Absolutely.
So like unfollow or like you can remove things through your like actions on them.
Oh yeah, you can even look at your algorithm now and say like, yeah, I don't want
go in
these.
and
Yeah,
control it. But I know whenever it gets political around like the election seasons, right? I hear so many people that are like, oh, I can't look. All it is this and this and this. And I'm like, if it keeps being that, then you're the definition of like, you know, it's the train wreck that you can't stop watching. That you don't want to type of thing.
Yep.
You gotta like pull away. And if you just tap on a few other things unlike that, you'll get more of that.
Oh yeah.
And
yeah.
You can control that a little
Yeah.
more.
Yeah.
But I
Absolutely.
think sometimes there's like people have some weird sick enjoyment in
Totally.
continuing to.
I mean, when I get a mosquito bite, I'm still gonna itch it, even though I know it doesn't do anything for it, and it's gonna make it worse in the future.
It's the worst.
It's the human nature. It's the human condition, right? It's like you can't avoid it. And I still have bad habits, right? It's like I have probably more bad and I recognize them now. And I sometimes go, is it worth the mental bandwidth? I'm trying to think like what's a current, somewhat innocent bad habit, right? That I do. It's like, when I get home, I sit on the couch right away. Still, it's like, I shouldn't. I kick my shoes off. If I just kept my shoes on and like took out the trash, I would be happier. My wife would be happier. Everything would be better.
It starts today.
Yeah, it starts today.
First thing,
First
the
thing.
trash out right when you get home.
Yeah, exactly. But sometimes you go, don't beat yourself up about small little habits, because it's like rest is productive too, right? So like leaning into like, if you are actually actively listening to what you need to do. If you're burnt out at work, I think burnout is total result of actions and not like it's avoidable, right? Like you can, there have been times where I've grinded 80-hour weeks and not felt burnt out at all, right? For many months in a row, but you hit a wall, right? And then you go, okay, time to recalibrate, time to, I said, I think before the podcast was recording, like for an entrepreneur, if the life is for you to like actually be in control of your own destiny, for whatever that means, it's whole life integration and not work-life balance.
Right.
Right.
Because for something to be balanced, they're equal.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? And
you want an asymmetry in the power dynamic when you're an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
You want to have it control.
Right.
And the trade-off of control is you also don't get to turn it off.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah. Well, I love the integration part you're talking about.
Yeah.
And like really life work is life.
Yep.
And especially when you're an entrepreneur, it's all just part of this like.
I needed to be in LA at 6 a.m. this morning, but I didn't go to the gym before, but I went to the gym right after my first appointment, right? So you integrate it in to still get what you need out of like life to be mentally sane, be there, know what it is that's actually like fixing the itch and not scratching the itch. You still meet those, but sometimes you have to be flexible, right? You have to rearrange.
So earlier when we were talking, you mentioned something that you lit up about. And it was really this like noble idea that everything is more about the end user, the end product, what you're giving and delivering to them, like more than anything else.
Oh, absolutely.
Did you have this epiphany about that? Did you come into it believing that from the beginning, that like everything's got to be about that? Or
it's a great question. If it was epiphany or realized, I think nothing's new, everything's discovered, right? So probably it was just reading great books that I really resonated with around that topic. And the people that I think are like thought leaders there, like Seth Godin or Simon Sinek, the Start With Why and the, marketing books that I've probably read every single book Seth Godin's ever put out. Those resonate, even like silly books like that we read in high school or college, like the How to Win Friends and Influence People. Like it's not, when you think about what's in it for someone else, that's just the best way to start. And it's so much more interesting than just doing self-gratifying. Like your hobby is for self-gratifying. And my hobby of coffee became business, right? So I did have to, like, I think that's where it was. It's like when I really realized like, oh, this isn't my hobby anymore. This is a job. This is a career. This is my life's work. It's important. That doesn't demean it by any stretch, but like it needs to take a different lens and approach, and I need to come up with new hobbies, right? Like I need to, and so, you figure out like what else kind of gives you that like spark and do that as your hobby fully, purely. And I know my hobbies now that I like don't want to do business ventures around, even though like you think about them all the time. You're like, oh, it'd be really cool if like this exists. And it's like, nope, leave that alone because you're going to ruin your next hobby, right?
Yeah. It's so true. What's your hobby now though?
I run consistently. I go to the gym. I play golf every once in a while. I watch baseball. Those are like the pure hobbies, and don't want to do any businesses around any of those.
You just need to put a coffee shop at the 19th hole.
Yeah.
Or the
19th hole is what they call the bar.
Yeah. So you got to do that, and then at a baseball stadium, and then
Oh yeah. Absolutely. We catered for the Angels every homestand. So
Mm-hmm.
I've already figured out how to integrate the hobbies into work.
So I have a question about coffee, going all the way back to coffee.
Yeah.
I hear for years now, it's like a teeter-totter of it's good for you, it's not good for you, it's good for you, it's not good for you.
Yeah.
And cortisol spikes, and don't have it on an empty stomach, and do this and that. Like, is there any truth to any of these things? Is it good? Is it bad? Is it just moderation, or what?
Yeah, it's like all things. Yeah, in moderation, it's good for you. If you overdo it, it can be bad for you. But, it is funny. All those things in a vacuum can sound really good or really bad. It's, I would say to anybody, like, it is a psychoactive substance. Like, you can get addicted to, people can get addicted to eating grass, right? Like, but you can get extra addicted to caffeine, right? You can get a physical dependency. So, even for me, I take 1 day a week where I don't drink any caffeine. That really helps your sensitivities. And, I think some of the healthy rules around coffee is that's where lighter roast coffee is probably better for you, because it definitely has less carcinogenic load, but the carcinogens it's less than like a hamburger. It's about the same carcinogenic load as a baked potato. So don't drink any more cups of coffee than you would eat baked potatoes, right? Like you would never eat 10 baked potatoes, right?
I don't know that I'd eat more than one.
Yeah, probably not.
But I would have more than
one. But
one
big baked potato, think of maybe a baby creamer, right? You'd eat 5 of those. Right.
Okay.
But you wouldn't eat 20. If you ate 20, you'd be like, okay, I'm overdoing it, right? Same thing with coffee from the carcinogenic load, which is the only thing that could be bad for you. But nobody would be like, oh, baked potatoes are really bad for you because of their carcinogenic load.
So what does that even mean?
It's everything that is a plant, which coffee is a plant too, as you cook it, some amount of the plant matter turns into ash. And ash is the layman's term for, creosote and all these other compounds that are actually in it. But it's the blackening that happens when you, just browning of potatoes, right? Mm-hmm. There's that cooking. Polyamides, there's dry distillation. There's all these weird things that are happening whenever you cook anything. And in excess, those are bad for you. So coffee's the same. If you drank 20 cups of coffee, you would have a little bit too much, inflammation load for your system to really accurately handle.
So this is where you hear terms like, that has the same carcinogens as a pack of cigarettes.
Yeah.
And they're comparing some deeply fried.
Yeah, one cigarette is one cigarette is probably a basket of French fries, same carcinogenic load. Don't quote me on that. I'm just making this up, right?
I get it, but there's
somewhere in there. And then the same thing is 5 cups of coffee. Huh. So if you eat a basket of fries, don't worry about
carcinogen
is a type of.
Does that have anything to do with cancer producing results? Yeah. I always felt they were somewhat related.
Yeah, they are related because in your body you have these stable, they're basically, the best way to think about it is minerals, right? They're not vitamins or minerals. They're not alive. They're just these elements that exist that can cause inflammation or decrease inflammation. And you need some inflammation, right? The cold shower is giving you inflammation, but in a targeted way so that the rest of your body goes, okay, we're going to respond and be awake. And so then your dose of inflammation and cortisol spike is actually way outsized by your dopamine and other things that are going to reduce that inflammation, right? Same thing with coffee. If you drink it in a productive way, it's going to raise your cortisol, but it's also going to give you that parasympathetic rebound of and by parasympathetic, you have the, your sleeping stage and your waking stage. It's going to wake you up, right? Mm-hmm. Same thing as a cold shower. It's going to wake you up. And you have antioxidants that are vitamin C and, all these other things that then counteract that to reduce inflammation. So, you have some of that innately and some of it is, but if you overwhelm your, through diet antioxidant load with a carcinogenic load, that's bad. So like that's super nuanced. And I would just say like just moderation. You don't really have to worry about any of it. And it's the same thing. Like don't eat French fries every 3 times a day, right? Like that's just good life advice.
Right. 100%. It's just so like one of the things with access to information is there's so much.
Yeah.
And there's so much conflicting.
Yeah.
And you really don't ever know.
But context is king here, right? Like that's why like I'm trying to break it down into the science just so that people know like I'm not disregarding the science, but it's like you don't need to worry about this. Like this is like stepping over dollars to pick up pennies if you're like stressing about your caffeine intake, because that stress is going to cause more anxiety problems than the actual coffee itself.
So just let it go and have a cup of coffee.
If you enjoy coffee, you feel good after drinking it, don't overthink it. Just enjoy that cup of coffee, right?
Yeah.
And like don't overdo it, right? Don't drink coffee. I mean, my personal rules, the rules that I live by, is I don't drink coffee within 12 hours of when I want to wake up the next day. So if I want to wake up at 6 p.m. is my hard cutoff. No caffeine after that time, because caffeine will mess with your sleep quality for sure. Sleep is like so important. That's a few years ago, like 3 years ago, with having the kids, you realize like, oh man, sleep really suffers, right? But like not stressing yourself out about that, but then really like appreciating when you can get 7 hours of sleep, right? It's like a gift.
Right.
That's like you want to give me the best present you could? Give me 8 hours of sleep. That would be like epic, right?
I don't even think I'll sleep 8 hours.
Yeah.
Like I never do. Like I just wake up.
How long do you usually sleep?
Probably like 6 hours.
I think that's fine.
Probably like 6 hours.
I'm the same. I'm like 6 to 7.
Like the other day, I went to bed earlier than normal, and we're not an early household.
Yeah.
So like,
neither are we.
I was asleep by 10:15.
Yeah, it's pretty early.
And I woke up at 3:30.
Yeah.
But my alarm is set to go off at like 5:30.
Right?
But I was like, I woke up and like I could have tried to like lay and wrestle whatever, but I was like awake. And like that's not all the time, but I feel like my sleep is like 5-6, 5-6, 5-6, 6, 7-7, maybe 1-8, like my body catches up.
Yeah.
And then I'm like lean, and then I have a
That's
day.
the right thing. Like, don't overthink it either,
Yeah.
right? Just listen to your body. If you need to sleep in, right?
But I'm one of those people, I could drink a cup of coffee I could have dinner, have a cup of coffee, and I'll pass out an hour later.
But that's where everybody's physiology is different,
Yeah.
right? Like
With my wife, she'll be awake for a week.
yeah,
it feels
exactly.
like she can't go to sleep
Yeah.
at night.
Yeah. And I'm probably between you and your wife, right? Like it doesn't really bother me, but I just noticed like, oh, if I made that, it's like an easy rule to follow too. It's like, whatever, and occasionally if I'm really tired and I got to drive home after dinner, I'll drink an espresso, with dessert, right? Why not? It's not like hard and fast. It's just like a good, like basic thing is like, maybe like 5 cups of coffee is like a typical human limit, right? And like maybe like not 12 hours before you wake up the next day. Every once in a while cutting back, not even going to 0, but like, just like take a day where you drink less coffee if you don't have a bunch of stuff to do. If you're just going to sit on the couch, right? Like just do that without 5 cups of coffee.
Yeah. There's no point in getting all jittery and then forcing yourself to sit.
Yeah. And if coffee doesn't agree with you, just don't drink it. You know what I mean? Like just there are other options.
Many other things you could,
beautiful things. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
So how big you want to take this thing? I Beyond the Horizon is this idea, like I'm hoping people hear our conversations and they begin to think a little bigger, a little further, or maybe a little bit more cautiously and intentionally, dependent on what things we talk about. But where do you want to take this thing to when you think big about it?
Yeah, so coffee is one of those things that I think is best kept local, right? Like I think it's beautiful local. So I think like with Moon Goat, there's not necessarily like I have a strong, even though I have big visions about the future, they're less about like, how big do we want to take it, but like how deep do we want to take it? Mm-hmm. So for me, I think like being on the forefront of just trying to get that question you asked of like, how do I find the right cup of coffee? Like finding that answer succinctly is like, that is my next 5-year plan, is really trying to figure out how that happens. Now, I have like plan Bs, right? If like the world were to unfold in the way that I could open 20 more shops and it made sense without mission creep, I would absolutely do that, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's where like I always say a couple weird analogies that kind of go with the beyond the horizon that are like my sayings, around business. Is like, in order to be successful at business, you only have to do one thing. You should have to be able to see around 2 corners, right? Like, sure. If you can do that, you're golden, right? Which is paradoxical, right? Like, no way to see around 2 corners. So I don't know what's around the second corner. Mm-hmm. And then I always say, like, you're at a fork in the water always. There's not a left and a right. There's not a good and a bad decision.
Right.
There is a spectrum. There's 360 degrees of turns you can make with your business to like actually take it in a good direction. So you set a plan, you stick to it, because when you make plan A, plan B is actually able to be done. Because if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. But you also have to just be so flexible, because your plan will fail too. Your plan will also fail.
Right.
And just be ready to take plan B. So it's like, and even sketching out some like, hey, this is scenario 1, right? Like enduring, relationships with producers, trying to like get those sorts of things going. But if the capital markets open up and like Gen 2 facilities become available, I'll expand like crazy, right? Mm-hmm. So just kind of like seeing how the marketplace is going to shift and just being able to take advantage of what is going to deliver the most value to the consumer base. Because if a bunch of coffee shops are closing and people still want coffee, I don't know many people better than me to give the people what they want, right?
Exactly. So you have your wholesale business that is booming.
Yeah.
That can kind of go as far
that can go bigger. Yeah.
So do you look at these as 2 businesses in one?
Mm-hmm.
Because I find that like we have on the financial services side, we have producers who work under our brand, and we do marketing, we bring in opportunities, and they facilitate like placing business. And then we have an independent channel of people who run their own business. We give them contracts, we give them some white labeled resources, and
you think about those as 2?
Well, they're 2 different animals.
Yeah.
They kind of feed the same hand, I guess, or like they're feeding to the same head, but they're 2 very different animals in the sense of like, how do you grow them? Yeah. What stimulates them? Where do they need energy and effort?
Yep.
Are
the ups and downs congruent, right? Do they like rise and fall with the same business cycles?
No, not necessarily.
Which is nice, right?
Right. They don't, because one of them is very like, dependent on our output of marketing and our inbound of client, right? Whereas the other one, they're all running their own businesses, right? So like, and we don't sell a tangible product. We sell insurance and financial services, right? Yeah. So whether or not they're selling will have more to do with their effort, their output, their lead acquisition, things like that. But in the wholesale and retail coffee business, do you have to go in and put a new cap on and be like, I'm running 2 businesses?
Yeah, but the way that I tie them together is that I think about like our retail shops as our biggest wholesale customers. So it's like, even when I'm wearing the wholesale hat, it's like you're making decisions that are going to be good for the retail operators. So that's the only way that I probably did that just to like keep the hats very similar, and not have to feel like I have to put on a mask too with the different hat.
Right.
But yeah, they're very different, and they rise and fall totally asynchronous. It's like, and not even, I wish it was just reciprocal, right? Like, but it is just random, right? Yeah. Like when wholesale's booming, retail might also be booming, but also might not be, right? So it's like, they really do need their own like care and attention. Mm-hmm. For sure.
You said something that made me think of one other thing I think we should touch and talk about.
Yeah.
You said to put on a mask.
Yeah.
Which makes me think of COVID.
Yes.
Which was such a challenging time for businesses.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
thank God you survived.
Yes,
You
we
guys
did.
made it
Yep.
through.
Yep.
Was there any like pulling of the parachutes, or like what were you going through in your mind when the whole state is shut? I mean, a lot of the country, but definitely California.
Yeah, definitely California. Yeah. And yeah, hope we never have to deal with something like that again, for sure. But we were so new that it was kind of like we had to make so many pivots in those first couple of years that it was like, I guess this is just what owning a business is, right? Yeah, it was crazy. And now looking back, sometimes you go through your camera roll, just like find something and you're like, whoa, that was like a crazy time. You're reliving those memories while you're doing it. That's the thing is you get the puppy. You don't get to decide, is the puppy a biter, right? Like, right. Do you need to muzzle that puppy? And that was just, I think that's the way I think about it, is like, you can't control what happens to you, but you can control how you react. Mm-hmm. And that's where control is kind of an interesting thing, because everybody defines it differently, right? Like what you think of as control, what I think of as control, we actually might be pretty aligned more than most people, but we're still going to have like a slight different definition. And I mean, I don't think anybody in hindsight goes, man, COVID was a good thing, and I'm glad we reacted the way we did, or, like nobody's thinking that. So, I just hope that history doesn't repeat itself too quickly.
Yeah, I think we have hopefully another 100 years.
Yeah, let's hope 100 years. Let's get 100.
Seriously. Oh man, crazy times. Well, I'm super pumped that we got to open up and talk about all this stuff. I think there's just so much in your mind. One thing I appreciate a lot is you've got a level of enthusiasm that's very contagious.
Good.
Not everybody has that, and I feel like it's oozes out of you like
Good.
Each time I've seen you.
I mean, to me, it's like I'm a total extrovert, so I just get I'm leeching it from everybody else, and it's when you're doing cool things, that's what good work just stacks, man. You just keep doing good things, putting good out into the world. Don't give without expectation, and you'll get it back. It's like that's the philosophy I live by, where it's like, it comes when you're doing good work and putting it out there.
Yeah, amazing. Well, keep up doing the good work. Before we wrap up here, can I say a prayer for you?
Of course.
All right. Lord, I thank you for the opportunity to just have this platform and have David join us here. What an amazing man with such great enthusiasm, amazing ideas, some of which I don't even know if he recognizes how incredible and contagious and awesome they are. His passion for just delivering good work is awesome. And I pray that anyone who's listening to this right now, who's on the fence or thinking about cutting a corner or anything, that they're just encouraged knowing that actually putting out the work that is truly beneficial for the other people will return in multiples beyond what they thought. And I pray that in his life, in his businesses, in all of the employees, the 123, that he's able to keep impacting their life, and that you shine, and that he feels your presence. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.